Hi, I'm Jessica. Today I'm going to teach you some idioms from the textbook Viewpoint 2. Even if you're not using the Viewpoint 2 student book, you will find these idioms useful. Let's get started. Today I'll be teaching you some idioms from Unit 1 of the textbook Viewpoint 2. Like I had just mentioned, it's completely fine if you're not using this book. The idioms that I'm going to teach you are useful for everyday life, and hopefully you can put them to use right away. I will give you the idiom, the definition of the idiom, an example, and then some time for you to do some speaking practice. Okay, the first idiom, on the tip of one's tongue. Do you know what this means? This means almost able to be recalled, or almost able to be said or remembered. For example, I saw an old classmate yesterday. It was embarrassing because I couldn't remember her name. It was on the tip of my tongue. If you see ones, you can change to my, your, his, her, on the tip of my tongue, on the tip of her tongue. Now we're going to do some speaking practice. If you are alone, then perfect. You can speak out loud. If you're in public and you don't want to speak out loud and you're shy, that's okay. However, if you can answer out loud, that's good because then you can work on your fluency. So all throughout this video, I'm going to give you a chance to do some speaking practice to answer the question and use the idiom in speaking. So first question, when was the last time that something was on the tip of your tongue? If you need more time, you can pause the video, and then when you're ready, hit play to go to the next one. Get your head around something. This idiom means to understand something that is challenging or confusing. For example, I can't get my head around why some people don't wear seatbelts when they drive. A seatbelt can save one's life. Fill in the blank. I can't get my head around. So try and think of something that's too challenging or confusing for you. I can't get my head around. Next idiom, learn something by heart. If you learn something by heart, you learn it so well that it can be written or recited without thinking. It means to memorize something. For example, when I was young, I learned the Pledge of Allegiance by heart. The Pledge of Allegiance is what Americans say when we are talking about the flag. We're pledging allegiance to our country, and we put our right hand over our heart when we are reciting it. So what is something that you learned by heart? The next idiom is come to mind. This means to think of something or something that occurs to someone. For example, in marriage, faithfulness and trust are important qualities that come to mind. When thinking about marriage, you might say, oh, faithfulness and trust are important. Fill in the blank. Comes to mind when I think about my childhood. So when you think about your childhood, what do you think of? What comes to mind? Nothing comes to mind. So I just taught you comes to mind. You can also do nothing comes to mind. This is used when you can't think of anything. So if we go back to the previous speaking question, you might say, I couldn't think of anything. Nothing comes to mind when I think about my childhood, which I don't think is true. I'm sure if you think of your childhood, you might think of hanging out with your friends during the summer and riding your bike, or maybe spending every winter vacation going to the mountains and so on. So nothing comes to mind means I can't think of anything. For example, let's say your friend says, where do you want to eat? and you say, I don't know, nothing comes to mind. So maybe you can't think of anywhere to eat, then you can say, nothing comes to mind. Next idiom, see the point. See the point of something. This means to understand or appreciate the meaning, reason, or importance of something. For example, some teenagers don't see the point of going to college. They don't understand or appreciate the importance of going to college or the reason for doing it. Fill in the blank. I don't see the point of. Grammatically here, you're going to follow it with a noun or a gerund. A gerund is verb plus ing. So I don't see the point of. Stick in one's mind. This means to be very memorable, to be unlikely to be forgotten. For example, after watching that movie, one scary scene is stuck in my mind. Maybe there's a scary scene that's so memorable, you can't forget it. It's stuck in your mind. What is something that a teacher or a parent told you that sticks in your mind? Jog one's memory. If you notice, there are a lot of idioms dealing with mind and memory. Jog one's memory means to stimulate someone's memory to recall something. So if you're stimulating someone's memory, you're trying to remind them of something. They forgot it. So when you're jogging their memory, you're telling them something that can help them recall or remember something else. For example, I couldn't remember what costume I wore last Halloween, but my sister jogged my memory by explaining what it looked like. Do you ever need someone to jog your memory? Ring a bell. Do you know this idiom? If something rings a bell, it is slightly familiar to you and you know you have heard it before, but you do not remember it fully. For instance, the name rings a bell, but I can't put a face to the name. So if someone tells you the name Stella, and you're like, Stella sounds familiar. So it sounds familiar to you, but you don't remember exactly who is Stella and what she looks like. Then you can say it rings a bell. Stella's name rings a bell. Here, when I say I can't put a face to the name, that means I don't know what she looks like. The name Stella sounds familiar, but I have no idea what she looks like, so I can't imagine her face and put her face to the name. When was the last time that someone told you about something and it rang a bell? Miss the point. This idiom means to overlook or fail to understand the essential or important part of something. For example, I'm sorry, but you missed the point. Let me explain it again. Maybe you're explaining how to do something or you're telling a story, and then your friend or whoever is listening completely failed to understand the most important point or something important you were trying to tell them, so you have to re-explain it to them. Fill in the blank. When someone explains something in English or tells a story, I never, sometimes, or always miss the point. If it's always, I'm sorry, but it's okay. The more you practice and improve your listening skills, the easier it will be to catch the main point and understand what the English speaker is trying to explain or tell you. Can't make heads or tails of. This means unable to understand or make any sense of someone or something. Let me give you an example. Can you help me with this contract? I've read it 3 times, but I can't make heads or tails of it. So after reading the contract 3 times, you still can't make sense of it. You don't understand it. Your turn for speaking practice. Fill in the blank. Is something that I can never make heads or tails of. The next idiom is no-brainer. This means a very easy or obvious choice, decision, or solution. So easy or obvious that it's humorously said to require no brain, right? If you don't need a brain to even consider this or make this decision, right? It's so easy or obvious. You don't need a brain for it. So that's why it's a no-brainer. For instance, you should accept the job. It has a high salary, good benefits, and paid vacation time. It's a no-brainer, right? You don't need to even think about it. What is something that is a no-brainer for you? Get the message. This means to understand the real meaning of what someone is trying to communicate. For example, Lauren was mad at Priscilla and stopped talking to her. Priscilla eventually got the message. I'd like you to answer this question. If you were a guest at someone's house and he or she is hinting that it's time for you to go home, do you think you'll get the message? So they're not telling you, okay, it's time for you to go home, but they're hinting, like maybe looking at their watch and saying, oh, it's getting late. They're hinting that they want you to go home. Do you think you'll get the message? Go in one ear and out the other. This idiom means to be heard and then immediately ignored or forgotten. For example, even though I told my son to clean his room, it went in one ear and out the other. So he immediately ignored what I said. Or here you can use it also if someone forgets something right away. What is something that has gone in one ear and out the other? Lose one's train of thought. This idiom means to forget what one was talking or thinking about. For example, I was telling my friend about my last vacation when a person interrupted me. After that, I tried to go back to my story, but I forgot where I'd left off. I had lost my train of thought. So this would be like you're talking, and then suddenly you forget what you're talking about. Maybe I'm teaching something, and then a student interrupts me and asks a question, and then I forget what I was talking about before. I lost my train of thought. Do you ever lose your train of thought? When? It's beyond me. This idiom means it's too astonishing, puzzling, difficult, etc. for me to understand, explain, or do. For example, why a parent would keep a loaded gun in their house is beyond me. Or you can say the same thing, but in a different way. If you want to begin the sentence with, it is beyond me, you can. So the sentence I just said, I could say, it is beyond me why a parent would keep a loaded gun in their house. The reason I say this is because if you have young kids, they find the gun that's loaded with bullets, they might accidentally shoot themselves, shoot someone else, shoot a sibling, and accidentally kill them. Fill in the blank. It's beyond me why, and then grammatically you're going to do subject plus verb. It's beyond me why. Next idiom, get something out of something. This means to obtain something positive, such as a benefit or good feeling by doing something. For example, let's say your coworker says, if I take your 4 to 11 p.m. work shift on Saturday, what will I get out of it? And you say, I'll take your Friday and Sunday shifts. So most people do not want to work on Saturday night. Maybe this person has a party to go to or a wedding, or they have some important thing they need to do. So the benefit for the person, if that person takes their Saturday night shift, they're going to take Friday and Sunday shifts instead, the work shifts. What is something that you get out of learning English? Hopefully it's a lot, but you can tell me at least one thing. off the top of my head. This means without giving it too much thought or without precise knowledge. For example, I don't know how many people are in this room, but off the top of my head, I'd say around 30. So if someone asks me how many people are in this room, and I just glance and I say, it looks around 30. I'm not giving it much thought. I'm not counting every person. It's just a guess. So without too much thought or without precise knowledge. Off the top of your head, so without much thinking, what are 3 places that you'd like to visit? Okay, we have just one more. Our last idiom is come to grips with someone or something. This means to begin to or make an effort to understand, accept, and deal with a difficult or problematic person, thing, or situation. For example, I'm coming to grips with losing my aunt from COVID-19. So you can come to grips with something occurring or with someone. Grammatically, you're going to follow come to grips with followed by a noun or a gerund. Remember, gerund is verb plus ing. So in my example where I said losing would be a gerund. So fill in the blank. I'm struggling or I'm trying to come to grips with. So what's something that you are trying to accept or you're trying to deal with or you're trying to make an effort to understand? And it could be a situation, a thing, or a problematic person. So I'm struggling or I'm trying to come to grips with. So that's all the idioms we're going to learn for today. Hopefully you found them useful and you enjoyed it. Remember, you want to use the idioms so you don't lose them. When you learn a new idiom, phrase, or vocabulary word, you want to use them in writing and speaking so that way you'll remember them. If you want to write a sentence or some sentences using the idioms and put them in the YouTube comments, you can. I'll check them and give you feedback on them. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you're doing well in your English journey and in life right now. Hopefully you're safe and healthy. I wish you all the best of luck. See you next time. Bye.